Okay, we're talking here about the vocabulary in Unit 14. This is on pages 404 and 405 in the book. Let's talk about the verbs first. The first verb is deiknume, this verb that's athematic only in its imperfective aspect system, and it has no vowel alternation in that system. So it's deiknume, and then the principal parts are really regular. Deiknume, deikso, edeksa, dedecha, you have an aspirated perfect, dedegamai, and edekthein, and means to show or point. And then they give you a compound, epideiknume, which means to show off or display, and becomes a word associated with rhetorical things. That's why the noun epideixis, epideixeos, hey, which they also give you, means a display or a demonstration, or means a rhetorical display. We also get the verb ep anahistamai, okay? So it's a preverb, it's a verb composed of the intransitive form of histeme, the middle form, with two preverbs, epi and ana. Epi anahistamai comes out ep anistamai, and it means to rise in revolt against someone, who goes in the dative, okay? These are, you can see how basic these words are, and you're going to see another example of it. The word histeme has very important connotations for civic, in civic and political things. So we saw aphistemu, which makes someone else revolt, okay? Right. This middle only verb means to rise in revolt against something or someone. So, Greek city-states are in conflict a lot. They're trying to take over from each other. They have a highly developed vocabulary having to do with, that's based on these very old words, especially histeme. So, and it's a word that has important connotations for histeme, for political well-being. So the most beautiful example of this is, how do you say set up a chorus in a Greek city-state? Did we talk about this?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but the verb is histeme. You histeme a choros. A choros is the fundamental, it's a chorus of people, a group of people who sing and dance together, but it's like a glee club, okay? In other words, it's a fundamental social unit of a cohesive group, and usually they're gender specific in ancient Greece, although they can be mixed. But that this is the kind of environment in which young ancient Greeks, male and female, learned how to behave, to be socialized in effect. So that's where the name of there's a great poet of whom we have only fragments named Stesi Choros, he who sets up a chorus. Good name for a poet, right? Anyway, so there's epanistamai. There's the verb erotao, which means to ask a question or question someone, and it's just an alpha contract verb, nothing special. It's a verb derived from the noun erotes, which means a person who asks questions. So erotes is a questioner, and erotao means to ask a question. We got the verb lanthano. We talked about that. The principal parts are interesting. Lanthano, leso, elathon is like manthano, math, lambano, lab. And then you have the perfect form, leletha. The root is leth or lath, okay? And so you see this is related to the river in the underworld, the river Lethe, which is a river of forgetfulness. You can see that we're in the same context of erasing memory is the same as escaping notice, okay? And actually this verb in the middle means forget, okay? And it covers an object in the genitive. We haven't been given that, but that's what happens. Under the preverb para, which means beside, as you know, it means with a dative sitting beside or at the side of, and the accusative to the side of, and the genitive from the side of. Here with verbs, it means to be beside, for example, with the verb gignomai. Para didome, with didome, means to hand something over to another person. So it's the same as the Latin verb trado, okay? So the word for tradition in Greek is paradosis, what's handed on from one person to another. And then there's parameno, which means to stand fast or stay behind, but also beside somebody, remain at the side of someone, have solidarity with people. Then there are the principal parts of the verb tonkano, the verb that when it means happen to governs a participle. When it has no participle, that the participle that completes its meaning, its supplementary participle. When it has no participle, it has an object in the genitive, it means hit upon or obtain something. So the principal parts are tonkano tauxamai, the root being tu chi, okay? Tau upsilon chi gives you tonkano, just like math gives you manthano, and lath gives you lanthano, and lab gives you lambano. These are all the same types of presents formed from an aorist root. So the future has the E grade of the root, tauxamai, and you got the zero grade again in the perfect tetucheka. It's the intransitive verb, so there are no passive forms. Lastly, there are two other verbs, thano, the verb to anticipate, to do something before someone else, to be the first in doing something. Yeah, we're going to have to understand this verb better when we actually see it in sentences, okay? But it can take a direct object, okay? You can anticipate someone in doing something, right?
Right.
Okay. So there's thano, thesamai, and ephthasa, or ephthane. You've got a first and a second aorist. It's one or the other. They don't have different meanings. It's just a newer and an older one. So it's not like histeme, which always has two aorists with different meanings. And lastly, there's chairo, from the same root as the noun charis, which means to rejoice in, to take pleasure in doing something. Well, anyway, chairo, chaireso is the future. There's no aorist, and there's a second aorist, echarein, which means to be, it functions as the aorist of the verb. It means I rejoiced in, and the perfect is I have rejoiced in, kechareka. So there's no active aorist of it anymore in Greek. All right, when it comes to nouns and adjectives, there's heteros, hetera, heteron, a really interesting word, that means one or the other of two. It's composed of the old root he, which gives you English he. It's a third person pronoun, and teros. So teros is the comparative thing. So it's just like the words for right and left in Greek have the teros suffix. It means one he, as opposed to the other. So it means one or the other of two. You can have it be either one. But the zero grade of this gives you heteros, the word for companion or comrade or political associate that we had in the previous lesson. And the relationship is that it's like our expression of significant other, right, is your friend, okay? All right. There's the adverb eti, which means yet or still, and gives you uketi and meketi, no longer. There's the adjective koinos, koine, koinon, a very common word in Greek that means common, sorry for the bad joke, but the book also leaves out an important other meaning of it, which is standard. So for example, that's why the dialect in which the New Testament is composed is called koine. It's he koine, the standard dialect, which spread all over the Alexandrian Hellenistic world. Okay, we don't have that until after Alexander, when the Greek world becomes amalgamated in some way, and you start teaching Greek to people who didn't know it before. Let's see, we've got mathetes, which is a agent noun from the verb manthano, means a person who learns, a student or a pupil. We got the adjective mesos, messe, meson, which means middle. Lots of interesting connotations of middleness in Greek daily life, because what's in the middle is something that's shared, okay? That's koinos, in fact. And so you can talk about things being in the middle as being common, okay? And it goes for middle space, like the Boston Common. You can call that the meson in Greek city-states. And it can be the middle space in a house, which is the hearth, basically. But so we have notions. There's the poetics to space in ancient cultures, in Greece as well. There's the adjective radios, radia, radion, which means easy. I don't know of any cognates of that in English. Notice that it has an iota subscript under the alpha, radios. Okay, so. That's the only thing that's peculiar about it. There's the noun stasis. This is the root noun from the verb histeme. It should mean standing or standing still. Okay, but what it means is civil war. Okay, in Greek city-states. So it's complicated to explain, but and maybe in class we can talk about this. Okay, I don't want to take too much time. And then there's the prefix when you use the preposition hupa as a preverb. Is really a bad way of saying it. It's the inherited functions of hupa as a preverb as opposed to its functions as a preposition. So they tell you it means under, to do something under something, to do it secretly, to do it gradually or in a little way. Okay, there's a there's a funny expression hupati in Greek that means a teeny little bit under something. Okay, so we have that kind of minimizing sense of under. An underachiever is small. Okay, slightly. That's the other aspect of it. So they give us two verbs with hupa as a preverb, hupakuo, which means to listen to somebody in a careful or intense way, to pay attention to them, and hupameno means to wait for something. There isn't anything particularly hupa about either of those verbs. Again, in some cases, it's verbs with compounds, with preverbs that function in prose, as opposed to the simple verbs, which Greeks tend to think of as poetic. Okay, so you're going to see hupameno when you expect to see meno. That's it.